Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Armchair Athletes live stream on this wonderful Wednesday night. Yeah, it's Wednesday. We got a huge storm coming from where I'm from right now, so we're getting ready for a huge blizzard. But yeah, this is a Week 16 waiver wire ads video, and right when I said, "Hey, let's get away from ads for a week," I said this last week. Plenty of injuries and phenomenal performances break out. I was making the point before of you don't really want to talk about people who are just barely going to be able to break into your lineup. It's pointless. We're in the playoffs. We need people who are going to perform now. Well, folks, the names I'm giving you today not only should be picked up off the waiver wire, they can be plugged in to perform now. They have been performing. They've made that jump. That's kind of what that video was dedicated to before in terms of people making that jump from a bench player to a starter. There's people jumping off the waiver wire right now that I think are starter material depending on the depth of your league and the situation of your team. Before we get any further, thank you so much. We just hit 50,000 views on this channel. This thing was teetering around like 2,000 or 3,000 just a couple months ago. We've really taken off thanks to all of your support. Literally all because of all of your support. Without any of you watching, liking, subscribing, spreading the word, telling anybody about this channel. I mean, seriously, some of you who have watched literally every stream. I'm thinking Brian Pereira and a couple of other names as well. And then some of you who have just watched one or two streams and joined as of recent. All of you in the same are helping out a ton. So I appreciate the support. We just hit 50,000 like a couple hours ago. So just wanted to express my gratitude in that regard. Let's just get this thing going. So my name is Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, where I do plenty of fantasy analyses, case studies, and I answer all of your fantasy questions in the comment section below. Make sure before we get started also that you follow us on all of our social media platforms. The links for those are in the description. And then if you are confident in your sports research like I am, make sure that you join Underdog Fantasy by hitting the link in the description. Use promo code Corey0410 to get your deposit matched dollar for dollar up to $100. So you'll already be in the green from the beginning. It's a great app that lets you guess overs and unders and combine parlays, and it gives you constant fantasy updates. There is an entire tab that's updating you on injuries, different starters, people jumping in the depth chart, aka what we're going to be talking about today. So be smart with your money, of course. I understand that gambling addiction is very serious. I set aside a small amount of money for the entire month and pretty much don't go beyond it. There are other strategies out there as well and other resources related to that. Also, make sure you check out the Start 2 Sit 1 YouTube short series we have going on. And I just put up a video a couple of days ago. Actually, I put it up yesterday. And it was dedicated to different players that are really making the jump into being a starter. You know, they could have hung out on your bench for a while. And I've mentioned this before, but there are just people right now who are staples and can be staples in most starting lineups if healthy. And Trevor Lawrence is one of the players, so that's kind of a caveat there. He needs to stay healthy. But without further ado, let's get into our Week 16 waiver wire playoff ads. And some of these you're going to want to start if they're healthy. I say if they're healthy because we do have Mr. Brock Purdy, who is questionable right now under center. He's got 6 touchdowns and 1 interception in the last 3 games since he was slotted in. And he has at least 15 points in each of his first two starts. So in that game against Miami where he was slotted in, didn't play the entire game. He's got a 69% completion rate since taking over for Jimmy G on December 4th. In that game against the Dolphins, really confident in his ability. Not to mention, Purdy does have the easiest schedule for fantasy QBs. Our easiest remaining schedule for fantasy QBs according to this ranking system. On Fantasy Pros, you see the 5 stars. That means he's playing some really vulnerable defenses who are giving up plenty of fantasy points to quarterbacks. So he goes up against the Commanders, the Raiders, and then the Cardinals. Now, the Commanders are tough. They haven't allowed over 20 points, like just in general, not fantasy quarterbacks. They haven't allowed another team to put up over 20 points since they played the Eagles on November 14th. But the Raiders and the Cardinals, I mean, they've been abysmal on defense. So another thing I kind of want to touch on is Shanahan definitely, he trusts Purdy, indicated by the fact that he saw an increase in throw volume last week. He was up to 26 pass attempts, had over 20 in that first one where he was slotted in against the Dolphins. And then actually in his first start against Brady, he threw the ball 21 times as well. So we're seeing an increase in volume. It's still a run-heavy offense, but a guy who's completing passes at a 70% clip is somebody that we're definitely going to want to be confident in. All right, we've got Zach Moss in the backfield. Now, this pick is based on a next man up mentality with the Colts all but mathematically eliminated and Jonathan Taylor likely gone for the season. Moss is the next guy up on the Colts depth chart, and I mentioned the fact that they're nearly eliminated because I'm sure that JT would tough it out if the Colts had a better record than they do right now, but it doesn't really matter at this point, so I could just see them shutting him down, and it seems like what's going on. Also, if you guys have any questions throughout the entire stream, drop them in the chat below, and I will get to them as soon as I'm done with these waiver wire ads. So just archive those, drop them in, pile them in, and I'll get to every single one. So yeah, with Taylor likely gone for the season, Moss is the next guy up on the Colts depth chart. So Moss was in for 67% of snaps, and he saw plenty of volume last week against the Vikings. He had 24 rushes. Now that's a unique game because the Colts were up 33 at one point before blowing the biggest NFL lead, or before having the biggest blown NFL lead in history at 33 points. They were up 33-0. So that's when Moss was getting most of his carries. The Colts were just trying to run the clock out. They had no urgency on offense, and, well, it bit them hard. It was the perfect storm, too. They only had one offensive touchdown. They had a defensive touchdown. Something on special teams went well for them as well. So really a variety of things that gave the Colts those 33 early points. Point being, though, Moss over Deion Jackson was getting plenty of touches. Moss was in for 67% of those snaps. Deion Jackson was just in for 32. So we clearly have a primary shareholder in terms of touches out of the backfield with JT out. It's not really a dual back system, at least from what we saw between the Colts and the Vikings. There's a lack of involvement in the pass catching department, so I have Moss as a great add for standard and 0.5 PPR leagues and an okay pickup for actual PPR just because he had a couple catches at the beginning of the year, but he really wasn't getting a whole lot of looks down the stretch. And now, he takes over the primary role. We're going to ask ourselves, how involved will he be in general? I don't know. And now Nick Foles is going to start under center because it's just a mess there. So we'll see what happens there. Let's go out wide to Mac Hollins. We've talked about Hollins before. He continues to be a phenomenal fantasy option. He's one of those quiet guys who's putting up double-digit fantasy performances over and over and over. We were big Donovan Peoples-Jones fans, and now he's finally getting recognized. Still not owned in over 50% of leagues. So, even with his recent explosion, and he had that punt return for a touchdown not too long ago. So, yeah, but Hollins is somebody we've liked for a while, and he is still, excuse me, folks, sorry about that. He's still the number 2 option behind Devontae Adams. He has been targeted more in the last few weeks with the absence of Darren Waller, and then, of course, Hunter Renfrow. He's been gone for a while. He's been a double-digit fantasy performer in 3 of the last 5 weeks. It's just a quiet yet consistent guy. We like somebody who's getting, and he just passed the 50 reception mark. Nobody else on the team is over 30. Foster Moreau has been pretty active, especially since Darren Waller has left, and even he isn't keeping up with Mac Hollins. So that's a pick that we're big fans of in terms of usage, and in terms of a team that, yes, they're 6-8, yes, they're starting to make a comeback, but as you can see, Mac Hollins definitely doing well for himself, and he's still in a pretty throw-heavy scheme. So that's kind of where we're at on that one. This one's going to be a deep league one. I was telling you guys before, these are people you can start. I'm a firm believer of that with Brock Purdy if he plays. I'm a firm believer of that with Zach Moss in standard and half-point PPR leagues. If you're in a deeper league, like 12 to 14 team, a lot of this is circumstantial. And folks, that's why we're going to do quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end fantasy rankings next year. Really looking forward to that. We're going to do basically a tier list, top 30. You've seen other channels do it because this is all circumstantial. I could tell you to start and sit someone. I could tell you to sit Latavius Murray in an 8-team league, and then for a 12-team league, it looks like a definite start. So I'm just going to start doing rankings. I feel like that's a lot more universal. So with this, speaking of depth, this is definitely a depth look. Don't go do this in an 8 or a 10-team league. I don't think it's worth the risk. It's worth the roster spot. We're talking about Marquise Goodwin, the former Olympian. I mean, this is another next man up move when you consider somebody like Goodwin. Nobody has ever questioned Goodwin's speed and overall ability once the ball's in his hands. The issue's been volume, right? So with Lock It Out, that should no longer be an issue. Goodwin has 2 20-plus fantasy point performances this year. Kenneth Walker III and Noah Fant are also questionable, opening the door even more for Goodwin, both in the pass and maybe the run game. He has a couple rushes this year. When I see a guy like Marquise Goodwin with that blistering speed, I'm thinking jet sweep end around. I'm obviously not in Pete Carroll's head. I'm obviously not in that locker room talking with him, but that's something I could see them definitely doing if Kenneth Walker III does not go. Keep in mind, he is questionable right now. Let's go to the tight end position. We've got Chigo Okonkwo. Okonkwo has 3 straight double-digit fantasy performances, and in today's tight end market, I think that's a must-add. I don't know how you ignore that. Now, there is a caveat on this. Whether you should start him or not, I mean, that's a whole nother question because Ryan Tannehill was just announced today. He's probably not going to be starting at all for the rest of the year. He had a pretty bad ankle injury, tried to tough it out. Malik Willis came in for a drive, and then Tannehill came back. Malik Willis is likely going to take over at quarterback for the rest of the season with Tannehill being out with that ankle injury. Willis's game high in passing attempts is 16. 1-6. It was against the Chiefs, and he was 5 for 16, so he had 5 completions. It was a very heavy reliance on Derrick Henry, so I don't know why you would ever sit Derrick Henry, but I feel like especially with Malik Willis back there, they're going to run a lot more read option, power read, those type of schemes with lots of pre-snap motion, but at the end of the day, it's going to be either Malik Willis tucking and running, or it will be Derrick Henry going up the middle. So that's kind of where I see the needle teetering in that regard. I think it's going to be a much more run-heavy offense. Now, with that being said, one of the easiest reads is right down the middle for most quarterbacks. That is going to be a Okonkwo. Maybe he gets something, right? So I wouldn't mind picking him up just so somebody else can't grab him. I know that's a really cheap move. Like, some people will grab someone just so, or you can grab him and then drop him the next day so that your opponent cannot get him off waivers in time. That's kind of the move I'm looking for here. If you're desperate at the tight end position, sure. I just need you to understand that Malik Willis is the quarterback, and he's never thrown more than 16 passes in his young career. So can't say I'm going to have a whole lot of confidence in Okonkwo extending that 10-plus point streak in fantasy football to 4. Maybe he will. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in it, but he has looked good as of late. Let's stay on the Titans. Let's just stay on the Titans and go over something that, it's a topic that you all request of me a lot. It's streaming defenses. Corey, which defense do I stream this week? This one's a no-brainer to me. The Titans are going up against the Texans. The Texans are horrible. And if we look here, the Titans, and this is in terms of defensive points obtained, so not actual points allowed, right? If they were allowing 4.1 or 8.5 points a game, that'd be pretty insane. This is fantasy, so just standard PPR, or in this case, just your standard, you give up a certain amount of yards, you give up a certain amount of points, and your point total goes down, down, down. You get 1 point back per sack, 2 for interception, 2 for forced fumble, fumble recovery, that type of thing. So if you look here, I thought this was a pretty interesting stat. The Titans average just 4.1 points against all other teams. But as you can see here, they get 8.5 points per game against AFC South opponents. And the one time they played the Jags, they were actually in the negatives. So they're really thriving when they go up against the Colts and the Texans. Who do they play this week? The Texans. Houston averages just 15.9 points per game. That's third lowest in the league, to make matters better. So I'm pretty confident in that. We're going to stream a defense that's going up against one of the worst offenses in the league. They've been switching between Davis Mills and Kyle Allen. They're really not all that confident in just about anything. I could definitely see Bryce Young, that being a destination for him. I don't think they're as confident in Davis Mills as we thought they were last year. The whole train's falling apart, and it's just Dameon Pierce holding it up with his back. This dude's going to have back surgery for carrying that team. And I'll give him credit. They took the Chiefs to overtime the other day, so we'll have to see. Let's get these questions going, everybody. Thank you for dropping in. Again, I said this way at the beginning of the video before some of you probably stopped in. Thank you for 50,000 views. We hit 50,000 views on the channel. That's combined with the YouTube shorts, the lives, the archived videos. Again, I just put a video up yesterday on people that have gone into what I would call starter territory or fantasy relevance. Trevor Lawrence being one of them. For the other 4, you'll have to go and watch it. But thank you all so much. 50,000 views. That's a very hard number for me to fathom in terms of how many times somebody has clicked on one of these videos. Thank you all so much. Without you, it's literally not possible. So with that, how am I going to repay you? I'm going to answer all of your questions. This will be a relatively long live stream. I'm going to try and make it one. So we've got Anime saying, hey, you're the GOAT. I appreciate it. Is Freiermuth worth holding out for? Who do I replace him with? Anime, that's going to depend on the depth of your league. If you're in a shallower league, maybe you can go out and get somebody else. Njoku's been in and out of a lot of lineups because of his injuries. Evan Ingram, you're probably not going to be able to get him anymore. He's been picked up throughout many leagues because he's exploded as of late. Foster Moreau is somebody who we just talked about before. He's the number 3 option on a pass-heavy offense. It's tough, right? Because you're switching between Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky. And anytime you have instability under center, there are definitely a lot of questions. So with that, let's actually look at some available guys. I'm not crazy about Freiermuth, but also he's pretty consistent. He's still a top 10 tight end. Oh, one of my Christmas presents just fell. All right, let's get this going. And keep dropping all of those questions in the chat, folks. I appreciate all of you. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe if you get value out of this, as per usual. I did the NFL Weddle before. It's basically Wordle, but just for the NFL. So if I run out of questions or we hit a lull, maybe I'll do that, and you guys can help me with it. All right, let's go tight end stream. We'll use the 50% rule, so tight ends that are owned in less than 50% of leagues. Or if you can just tell me what tight ends are available in your league, Anime, we can go from there. Okay. Week 16, folks. We've got 3 weeks left. That is insane. I'm going to be doing a lot of tier lists with, I'm excited to do one where it'll either be tiers or I'm going to break down each team. I basically want to talk about how valuable each team is from a fantasy football perspective. Like the Vikings, I love. Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson. There's 5 right there, right? KJ Osborne as of late, he had a 31-point performance last week. But then there's teams like the Titans where it's literally just Derrick Henry. It was Treylon Burks for a little bit. It was never Robert Woods. So I'll be talking about that. I'm going to talk about 5 surprises and 5 disappointments. Surprises, Geno Smith's definitely going to be on there. I'll do different case studies on different teams, different players. I'll do 5 quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends you can draft for the next 5 years. And then I'm doing a rebuild. I don't even know what to call it, like a zero to hero type of concept where I'm going to do a draft for next year. And I'm going to pick backups across the board. People were telling me pick Trace McSorley or Antonio Brown first. I want to prove to all of you that you can win some games, a decent amount of games. It's going to be my goal to get like top half in the league maybe, but we'll just see. I'm going to show all of you that you can win some games in a fantasy league strictly off the waiver wire, strictly off the trade market. And I'm literally starting from bare bones. My rules are I have to pick all backups, and then obviously you can't pick up a backup defense. So I'm going to pick the 32nd ranked defense. Kicker, I'll pick, whoever you guys want me to. Maybe that'll be our one freebie. And then from there, I'm going to have to pick people up off waivers. I'm going to have to try and make some deals, upgrade. I'm going to have to give up more than I'm probably getting at some points for a bigger player. But I will have started from rock bottom. So it's just to show all of you that even if you have a bad draft, your season's definitely not over. Okay. I was a Dulcich guy for a while, but he had a season low 2 targets not too long ago. Taysom Hill is always interesting, especially when he throws the ball, right? Taysom Hill would actually be an interesting one because he did have a passing touchdown not too long ago. They're not crazy about Andy Dalton. He's having a decent year. Dawson Knox, you're not going to get a hold of anymore. Njoku. Yeah, I know it's tough when you look at Freiermuth's numbers, but really, he's one of the best. He had a horrible week against Carolina. Did not get the ball at all. But you aren't going to find, many tight ends who are getting over 10 points more times than they are not. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of, he missed 2 weeks. 7 out of 13, you're just not going to find those numbers with a whole lot of guys. The only guys you'll find it with are the ones above him, the Travis Kelce's, the Mark Andrews, although Mark Andrews has been struggling a lot, George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, not even Dalton Schultz. I feel like Freiermuth's been doing a little bit better than him as of late as well. Yeah, just... it's tough. Outside of Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews when he's on and George Kittle and TJ Hawkinson, it's really slim pickings, if we're being honest with ourselves. Ooh. Mr. Dallas is back. So that's an opportunity as well. But again, he's probably not open. I would stick with Freiermuth. It's a tough tight end market out there. It's tough. All right, let's go. Alex. Welcome in. Made the playoffs in the final spot. Good stuff with a doubleheader. Up by 45 with a 70% chance of winning. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. All of you were telling me like, I'm third, I'm fourth. I've had some comments like this before. I won my league last year as the 3rd seed. In a smaller league, it was a 10-team league, and I was the 3rd seed out of a 4-team playoff field. All you have to do is get in. So good stuff, Alex. 70% chance of winning. Am I technically in the clear? Not trying to jinx myself. Alex, if by in the clear you mean don't set your lineup and don't sweat about it, I'm not going to say that. I'm down by 45 in one of my leagues right now. I'm the 4 seed playing the 1. Not going to say you're in the clear. Anything can happen, Alex. You just whoop somebody by 45. Who's to say they can't have a great week and come back and do it? So if it's not broke, don't fix it. I'd say plug mostly the same lineup in as long as you don't have any abysmal matchups. If you want to run any starter sits by me, feel free to do so, Alex. But I would say you have a pretty good chance. I'd say you can almost write it off, but please set your lineup. Don't neglect that team and pay attention to another one. Set your lineup. Pay attention to good matchups. Are you picking running backs on run-heavy teams? Are you picking or winning teams who are going to run the ball down the stretch? Vice versa. Do you have wide receivers in great situations going up against weak opposition? Are your players striking off availability? It's dropped my phone. Opportunity and productivity. All that good stuff. So still check everything, right? But I'm going to pick my phone up now. Still check everything, but I think 45 points is a pretty good cushion. Prey says, what's up, Brock Purdy? GOAT. So yeah, if you want to go on my channel, folks, I put up a short not too long ago on Brock Purdy and how he's actually fantasy relevant as well. And I basically teased this video, right? Because I'm telling you to add him. Only 27% of leagues have an owner of him right now, partially because of that injury. He has the easiest schedule. I just told you guys before. Easiest remaining schedule for any fantasy quarterback. So I said he's more than just an inspiring story. You know, he was Mr. Irrelevant. He was the last pick in the draft out of Iowa State. I actually have an Iowa State hat over there. I'm going to put it on. There we go. Brock Purdy. But, actually, yeah. So Prey goes in there and says, hey, you kind of look like Brock Purdy. And then a couple other people pitched in. Someone said, yeah, he's promoting himself. This is Brock Purdy's burner or something like that. But, yeah. I'm starting Jerick McKinnon over Kenneth Walker III. You know, I would too. Jerick McKinnon was the leading receiver on the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. So I would definitely take that, especially in a pass-heavy offense like the Chiefs. Again, we talk about situational stats. When you have a team that is very pass-heavy and all of a sudden you've got somebody else arising over Juju Smith-Schuster, over Travis Kelce on one occasion as the leading receiver, I'd be a pretty big fan of it. Pray it's probably a PPR league if you're considering McKinnon, I'm assuming, but either way, he's got 3 receiving touchdowns in the last 2 weeks as a running back. I joked in another video that I did a little bit ago. Jerick McKinnon was another one I said has slotted into starter territory. I said straight up, if you covered Jerick McKinnon's name and just looked at his numbers and asked somebody, who does this remind you of for the last 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to hear Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler. That's the type of productivity, or even better, that we're seeing from Jerick McKinnon over the course of the last couple weeks. So, yeah. Kenneth Walker III is questionable, too. So, Jerick McKinnon, I like it a lot. You know, he's been getting plenty of usage. Let's do it. Purple Cat says, hey, hope all has been well. Yeah, it has been. I think everything's going good. We just passed up 50,000 views. What are we at? 322 subscribers right now. 332. We're going crazy. So I appreciate all of you. All has been very well, Purple Cat. I appreciate you checking in. Prey says, have you made a must-start kicker short video for this week? I don't do kickers. I could start to do kickers. If you want my opinion, I love teams that get in the red zone a lot, so a high red zone frequency, but have a very low red zone touchdown percentage. So basically teams that can't finish drives. Last year, I would think like the Cowboys or the Chargers, where, you know, Badgley was getting plenty, Maher was getting plenty. So I can look into that if you would like. That's basically what those projections are based off of too. We just want guys who are going to get inside the 25, the 20, or even, you know, 30, 35, and the team trusts them. Not like Cade York. He wanted to do a 67-yarder in the snow after he shanked a shorter kick, and the Browns were like, no, I'm good. Stefanski's like, don't do that. I could do something for kickers if you want. It wouldn't take me too long. Or if you have any questions on kickers, let me do it. I'll gladly do it. What are your thoughts on Andrews and or Goddard for this week? Full PPR. I feel like Andrews has underperformed compared to projections. Who might you start? So Purple Cat, that's because Tyler Huntley's in. Lamar Jackson has not been playing consistently. So in terms of that, you know, we still know, oh gosh, well now Jalen Hurts is out, right? I would trust Gardner Minshew to spread the ball out a little bit more as opposed to Tyler Huntley because Minshew's got some more starts under him. I feel like he understands the personnel a little bit more. But it's literally just Tyler Huntley. That's it. They've relied a lot more on runs because, okay, Mark Andrews hasn't been doing well, so somebody else has to pick up the production, right? Oh, he's questionable now, so. Yeah, you can see. Not throwing the ball a ton against Pittsburgh. And then 17 for 30, 138 yards. He's just not throwing the ball down the field. Yards per attempt below 5 in that last game is not something we really want to see. You know, lack of production on offense, to say the very least, against a struggling Browns team that just switched over at quarterback. I don't think it's a great situation. And then if you look at... That's the wrong link. So who's thriving, right? Who's thriving if Mark Andrews isn't doing very well? It's been J.K. Dobbins. I picked him up, and there's a lot more rushes. There's 2 things you usually do with a backup quarterback. You, A, run the ball more, and B, let them dump it off and find their easy reads. Sometimes the easy read would be your reliable tight end, Mark Andrews. I thought that's what was going to happen. But Tyler Huntley and him just aren't connecting right now. So they've started to hand the ball off to this guy since he just came back from injury, and he's averaging 8.5 yards a carry. So I would say that's pretty good. Not very involved in the pass game, but it doesn't matter. So I would probably go Goddard. And I just realized I didn't switch the screen. Yeah, J.K. Dobbins. I'd probably go Goddard, if I'm being honest, because Tyler Huntley's still in there. I believe. I'm going to check. Hope all of you guys are doing well. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe. We'll be on for a bit. So if you have any questions, start sit-wise. I just did 6 ads that you should consider. Brock Purdy, Zach Moss, Mac Hollins, Marquise Goodwin in deeper leagues because of the Tyler Lockett injury. Chigo Okonkwo, and the Titans defense. We're streaming them against the Texans. Just checking here. So Lamar is actually questionable. If Lamar is in, he didn't practice Wednesday. Well, we've still got a couple more days of practice. If Lamar is in, I'm fine with it. We've seen a big dip in production with Mark Andrews since Tyler Huntley came over. You can kind of see that overlapping in the timeline between the two. So I'd probably go Goddard. Again, Gardner Minshew's got more starts under his belt. He understands how to spread the ball out. Even with Goddard being the third option to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I don't see that being a huge issue. So I'll tell you this, Purple Cat. From a probability perspective, I would say if Lamar is in, we go Andrews. If Lamar is out, we go Goddard. That's the rule of thumb that I would use because we're just not seeing a connection between Tyler Huntley and Dallas Goedert. Price says pick one at the flex position. We're going Darius Slayton, Latavius Murray, or Okonkwo. I'm usually really hesitant to put a tight end in at the flex position, even if it is PPR. Latavius Murray's been pretty involved. Slayton's in a run-heavy offense. I'm going to be in between Latavius and Slayton because of what I said before with Okonkwo, that Malik Willis is in, and the most times he's ever thrown a pass in a game, again, it's his rookie year, out of Liberty. Love him a lot. This is no knock on him. He was 5 for 16 against Kansas City in his most pass-heavy game, and that was one of his only starts. So not super confident that Okonkwo is going to get the opportunity to do well. Because of that, we're looking at either Latavius Murray or Darius Slayton. So from there, Latavius Murray at 32 years old is doing very well. Again, he is questionable, so we need to monitor that. Going against the Rams, that front seven's still pretty strong despite the fact they're hurt like everywhere else. But they got beat up by A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, if we're being honest. Darius Slayton has seen an uptick in production as of late, so that's something we're pretty confident in. Again, it is a run-heavy scheme that does gravitate around Saquon, but he is going up against Minnesota. I think there's a big day in store for him there. Minnesota's defense, this was the case last week. I'm pretty sure Minnesota still allows more pass yards than anybody else in the league. And again, it's a run-heavy scheme for New York, so you have to consider, I would not expect Daniel Jones to throw the ball over 40 times. However, yeah, Minnesota... Oh, Tennessee took the cake. Because Herbie threw for over 300 yards despite doing literally nothing else. 280 yards a game, not too shabby in terms of a wide receivers matchup. I'm leaning Darius Slayton, but I wouldn't hate you for doing Latavius Murray because Latavius Murray is putting up really good numbers. If Latavius Murray plays and if he's full participant in practice by Saturday, let's go with him. By Friday, actually. A lot of these games are on Saturday. I need to keep that in mind. There's only 3 games on Sunday because Sunday's Christmas. If Latavius Murray's a full go, sure. But remember, with the exception of the quarterback position and the kicker position, I guess, if somebody is like a game time decision and they end up playing, that doesn't mean they have to play all the snaps. Latavius Murray could be questionable. He could play and he could get 20 snaps. He still played. He was still good to go. So because of that, I'm leaning Slayton. But if Latavius Murray's 100% good to go, I would lean him. Let's stay away from Okonkwo. We just don't know. Malik Willis doesn't throw the ball a lot. It's him and Derrick Henry out of read option, out of power read. We don't want that. We don't want to deal with that right now. Let's let him sit and let's figure it out later. So I'd go Slayton or Latavius Murray, depending on Murray's health status, Prey. That's where I'm thinking. All right. Got Purple Cat in here. Need 2 running backs and a flex out of these guys. I have Miles Sanders, Aaron Jones, Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco really did not do what I wanted him to do against Houston. It made all the sense in the world to start him. 5 yards per carry allowed. You would have thought that Kansas City wins that by 20, and they run the ball a lot late. It went to overtime, and he fumbled the ball. It wasn't a good day. Rashad White, Mike Williams, who would you select? I need to keep looking at this Chargers wide receiver depth chart. Because now Parham is back. Although he's a tight end, but This is the healthiest I've ever seen it. It's just Jalen Guyton now. I mean, we've come a long way, folks. DeAndre Carter has had his fair share of injuries. Obviously, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Joshua Palmer, Everett. Parham was out for the majority of the year. Mike Williams, he's still been getting a decent amount of volume as everybody else has come back. It's been like 1A and 1B with him and Keenan. I like the volume he's been getting. Bit of a downtick in usage as of late. We can actually look at the Chargers. That's what we want to see. Right, so it's pretty evenly distributed if we're being honest. 9 targets for Allen, 8 for Mike Williams. He just only hauled in 50% of those, so it didn't look the greatest. Then it goes Everett, then it goes Palmer. Palmer's actually the leading receiver in targets, receptions, and yards because he's just been the healthiest. But I like Mike Williams. Even against Indianapolis, they're mid-tier secondary for sure, especially after we saw them explode against the, or implode, I guess, against the Vikings. I'm pretty okay with that. Two running backs and a flex. So we're picking the flex. We want a pass catcher for our flex. So I'm pretty much going to just stick to my guns and say Mike Williams right there. So then we're choosing between Miles Sanders, Aaron Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, and Rachaad White. In terms of pass catching involvement, if this is PPR, and I'm assuming it is unless you specify otherwise, pass catching involvement, we've been getting a lot from Aaron Jones. We've been getting a lot from Rachaad White. Isaiah Pacheco showed some upside until last week, and then Miles Sanders is pretty much just ground and pound with the occasional catch here and there. Matchup-wise, it is Eagles against Cowboys. That's going to be a tough one for Miles, and then it is Packers against Dolphins. That could go very well for Aaron Jones. Pacheco is going to face off against the Seahawks, and then Rachaad White going against the Cardinals. So right off the bat, I see the Cardinals and Dolphins as very optimal matchups. Obviously, the Cardinals, Rachaad White's matchup, the Dolphins, Aaron Jones's matchup. I think I'm going to go with the 2 pass catchers and Aaron Jones and Rachaad White. I wouldn't hate you for putting Miles Sanders in because he's still top 10 in the league in volume, so rushing attempts. In total rushing yards, he's already broken the 1,000-yard barrier, and we still got three weeks to go, which is pretty insane. And then rushing touchdowns, he's up there as well. So I'm thinking Rachaad White, Aaron Jones, and Miles Sanders. Some combination out of those 3. Isaiah Pacheco just has a pretty tough matchup. Yeah. I mean, the Seahawks front 7's been all right. Pacheco's not as much of a pass catcher, so I'm going to go with the 2 guys who I think have some pass catching upside in Aaron Jones and Rachaad White. If you want to plug Miles Sanders in because he's the best pure back out of those 3, I don't blame you. And then Mike Williams is going to be my flex. We want to go with a pure pass catcher there because all he needs is 5 catches for 60 yards, and he's got what would take a running back 110 rushing yards to equal. So I'm going to go with that. We're going to think smarter, not harder there. And then Purple Cat saying, how would you project Tua and D-Hop the rest of the season? Are they viable in the fantasy playoffs? D-Hop, I feel like it's going to take a lot for us to not start him. I mean, if you look at volume, right? We've seen Greg Dortch get some more looks. Rondale Moore has been out, so that kind of shakes things up, doesn't it? We know Zach Ertz has been out for a while. I mean, I'm really not worried. 11 targets. I'm okay with that each time. He's already the leading receiver, by the way. Can we just talk about that? DeAndre Hopkins has played, 8-9 games? And he's already the leading receiver. So, I think it's actually 10 games. But I'm okay with DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's very viable. Now, Tua, remember we talk about availability, opportunity, and productivity. With Tua, I also want to look at strength of opposition. If I remember correctly, he's kind of in the middle. Yeah, okay. Playing against Green Bay. Now, Green Bay allows the second least amount of passing yards in the league. It's at 185. So we're going to need him to use his big guns, a.k.a. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So Tua, I'm not too sure. He's viable. Depends on the remainder of your lineup, Purple Cat. D-Hop, we can't shy away from D-Hop. I don't really care if he's had an off week or two. He's one of those guys like Justin Jefferson, like Tyreek Hill, like Jamar Chase when healthy that I feel like we just cannot bench. I think any matchup is a good matchup for DeAndre Hopkins because of the volume he's getting, because of the fact he's got 11 targets, because of the fact he has more targets than anybody else on the team except for Marquise Brown, and he's played half the season. I mean, that's my take on that. And if we look at DeAndre Hopkins, I know it feels like he hasn't performed extremely well, but for him, right? For himself, it's not extremely well, but 13 points is still solid. 14.9 points is still solid. What do we got? 18.7. That's more than most wide receivers are going to do on a consistent basis. So because of the high volume and because we know for a fact that DeAndre Hopkins will produce more times than not, I'm okay with it. Now, you do need to watch who's at quarterback. It's Trace McSorley now, so they're down to the third guy. I still think you start D-Hop over most people unless you have a really deep wide receiving core, just because he's such a good ball hawk. All right. Purple Cat says, thank you. No problem. Preya says, I'm in the second round of the playoffs. I'm scared to start Evan McPherson. Who should I pick off waivers? Okay. There's Dicker the kicker, Butker, Young Hoku, Jason Myers, and Robbie Gould are good ones on kickers. I'm leaning Dicker or Butker. Dicker with a clutch field goal for the win, right? I mean, let's look at this, okay? Because we don't really care about extra points. If a team wins 35-14, we hate it as a kicker owner. I blanked for a second. We want teams that are not going to finish drives. Subsequently, those teams are going to kick a lot of field goals. If a team is in the red zone, unless they're down like multiple possessions with a couple minutes to go, we know for a fact, right, if they're going to kick a lot of field goals, and that's why Dicker the kicker has been doing so well. Who else did you have on that list? Myers is up here. Young Hoku. Yeah. Here's the Chargers. Myers. Atlanta, when they get in the red zone, they're actually scoring at a pretty high rate relative to the rest of the league. Robbie Gould. And yes, you want guys who are going to make it at a high rate, but more times than not, kickers are going to make it, between 75 and 90% of the time. We really just want guys who are getting volume. San Francisco's middle of the pack. And if we look, and then Butker as well, Kansas City is scoring so many touchdowns. I mean, we just don't see Butker used a whole lot. Kansas City's a very aggressive offense, too. If you think about it, if it's 4th and 1 at like the 27, they're going for it. Andy Reid trusts that offense. And I'm not saying that Brandon Staley doesn't trust Justin Herbert, but this is just a team that kicks a lot of field goals. They score a lot of points, and they're in the red zone in these 4th and 5, 4th and 6 scenarios so many times that sometimes you just got to take the points. The Chargers are at 22.3 points per game. That's a lot considering they have such a low red zone percentage. So what does that mean? That means they're kicking a lot of field goals. Let's see if I can actually find that. Bet you anything, Dicker is up there in terms of attempts. Field goal attempts, I should specify. Yeah, Cameron Dicker has been there for 8 games, and he's averaging over 2 field goal attempts per game, and he's 16 for 17. He's 5 for 5 from 20 to 29. This is exactly what we want. I'm curious. Where's his one miss? It's beyond 50. Okay. This is a team that drives between the 20s, and then once they get in the red zone, they kind of stall out. Most of these guys are not averaging over, 2 attempts per game. We've got 14, 27 here, 14, 27 here. That's barely over 2. That's barely over 2. Under, over, way over, actually. Under, a little bit over, under. You get the point. So I think Cameron Dicker is a really good one, and then actually Myers is up there. It's a little under 2 attempts, but he's super accurate. I'd be okay with Jason Myers or Cameron Dicker. And that was for Prey, if we're looking at the kickers. I'd be okay with those. We want teams that are driving down the field but have really low red zone percentages. I'm sorry, red zone touchdown percentages, because that gives our kicker an opportunity. And that's kind of what we're looking at there. Tino says, what's up, bro? What's up, Tino? Make sure you guys, if any of you like WWE at all, I don't know jack about that, so go check out Tino's time. He just got past 500 subscribers, and he's rising really fast. Puts out great content. He live streams more often than I do, even. I'm trying to work on live streaming as much as he does, so definitely check out Tino's time if you're into that. Does a lot of baseball reporting as well. I know Tino is torn on the Jose Abreu pickup for the Houston Astros, as my boy Tino is a White Sox fan. Brian says, just started the video. Thanks for the shout out. No problem, Brian. There you are again. Mr. Constant, subscriber of the month, man. You are always here, and I absolutely love it. If you have any questions, let me know. You've got one here. It says, Njoku is questionable again. What is going on with that guy? And the experts say that CMC is injury prone. Well, the experts are right on CMC. I have not drafted CMC in a couple years. Same thing with Saquon Barkley. I think next year. And folks, I am going to start doing some mock drafts in the next couple of weeks. But next year, I will definitely be taking Saquon Barkley because when he is healthy, we know what he can offer. Age is still not an issue. He's still in his mid-20s. I've seen him healthy for over a year and a half now, so I'm cool with it. But yeah, Njoku, it's just a lingering injury, man. The thing with him is when he does play, he's doing extremely well. He's still a top 10 tight end. Offense was at a premium the last game, so 5.8 is not too good. He's pretty touchdown reliant is what I've noticed as of late. Again here, I mean, it's still 7.9, 12.9. These are things that we're okay with before the touchdown, but against Buffalo, against Baltimore, against New England, and again, those are pretty tough matchups. I would say Baltimore is the most vulnerable defense out of them. I would still say Njoku is very good against, mid-tier defenses and against bad defenses. Like Los Angeles had plenty of holes in their defense in the beginning of October. He's taking advantage. 14.8 without a touchdown. That's a great day, especially in today's tight end market. So Njoku, in terms of him being questionable, you just got to look at, what is it? Is it a hammy? That's knee. Okay, that's pretty dangerous, not going to lie. But yeah, with Njoku, I think he's startable over like 80% of the tight ends out there just because of his sheer productivity. Over 500 yards, over 50 receptions. He's got his 3 touchdowns, 10.8 yards per reception. So he's getting those balls down the field. He's not just on these little hook routes where he's sitting down. I like him a lot. I would look at the Browns' weather situation. I can kind of see that in the corner right now, right here. I remember there's a mention of it being in the negatives. So how much are they going to pass the ball and how much are they going to rely on somebody like Nick Chubb, who's one of the best running backs in the game right now? There's an argument that he is the best pure running back in the game, still hovering around 6 yards a carry. I still think Njoku, and somebody brought up Pat Fryermuth earlier as well. I think those are startable guys over the majority of the league, even if they're coming off an off day or if they're fighting an injury. Again, with skill position players, you have to understand that just because they play, if they're questionable up until the day of play, they don't have to play all snaps. He could be on a pitch count. So that's something you kind of want to watch out for, Brian. Is Njoku on a pitch count? Do you see anything about them saying he will have a limited day today? He will have limited snaps. Harrison Bryant's going to get more just more action in general in his spot. So that's something we want to watch for. Yeah, he is injury prone, but he's played in most games. We're seeing questionable a lot. It's kind of like the Keenan Allen situation before. We saw plenty of questionables next to him, except he just didn't play. But he's suited up for 11 games, so we're gonna watch it. He's played the last 2. But I agree, it's frustrating, man. Especially when you have somebody producing so well, like Njoku. So watch a pitch count for him. Otherwise, watch the weather. It is in the negatives. And you also need to see, it's the lowest over-under in a while. What was I going to look for? My mind says they're pretty run-heavy in Cleveland still. I love to look at this, guys. What team is running the ball the most? What team's passing the ball the most? Because that helps you, right? That definitely helps you in terms of trying to determine who do I start, who do I not start. If we are looking at Cleveland, they are top 10 in teams that run the ball the most. It's 50-50, pretty much. 51-49. Yeah. So you've got a guy on a pretty run-heavy team already. I'd be pretty worried about the weather and or his knee injury. But if he's healthy and the weather options or the weather forecast is optimal, I'd be very okay with starting him. TME, welcome in. Start Zay Jones or Garrett Wilson. Start Elliott or Hunt if Chubb doesn't play. Yeah, or Hunt if... Okay, that's a good point. I believe Chubb is questionable still right now. Let's look here. Yeah, foot injury. Optimism, he will play. Yeah, I'm thinking we don't worry about it. Then if they're saying optimism, he'll play at this point in the week, we're pretty confident. Nick Chubb is a beast, man. If Nick Chubb plays, Nick Chubb's going to tear it up. I mean, this is one of those exceptions, right? He's a workhorse. 5 yards a carry. Top 5. So this beats Miles Sanders being top 10 in these categories in rushing attempts, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. Yeah, we are very okay with starting Nick Chubb. The other option was Elliott, and then we'll talk about Zay Jones and Garrett Wilson. I'm pretty sure I have my answer on that one. Start Elliott. Yeah, Elliott's been getting more, so I kind of want to look at snaps here. Let's just look at the usage situation. There we go. I really thought this was Tony Pollard's backfield, and I'm slowly learning it's both of theirs. Like, he's emerged as more of a prominent tight end. He's not getting that 30, 40% we kind of saw in this middle stretch between weeks 3 and 6. Thank you, pop-up. Completely refreshing the screen. But now we're definitely seeing, it kind of teetered in favor of Pollard. Pollard got his start with Elliott out, not there. Had that monster game against Chicago a little over a month ago now. But now it's pretty much 50-50. The thing is, Zeke is going against the Eagles, who have a pretty weak rush defense, if we want to look at strength of opposition. Also, I see we're at a third of the way to 1,000 subs. We just hit 333. I appreciate the growth as of late, everybody. Make sure you keep spreading the word on this channel. I appreciate all of you a ton. We'll do a Weddle in a little bit. We'll have some fun with this. If you guys don't know what that is, stick around. Yeah, there's Philly at the bottom of the barrel, pretty much. 4.7 yards per carry allowed. So that's kind of Zeke's matchup right there. Nick Chubb in that weather. If he's healthy, I'm going Nick Chubb. If Hunt is in there instead, I think it's going to be a pretty run-heavy scheme. That's a tough one, man. Let's dive in this a little further. Well, we're still on here. We've got New Orleans, 4.6 yards a carry. So both going up against pretty weak defenses in terms of the run game. I would probably go Hunt if Chubb doesn't play because we know he's going to get a majority of those carries. Kareem Hunt, still a great back. Elliott is splitting that backfield with Pollard pretty evenly. Elliott does have a touchdown in 7 straight games. I did forget about that. You know what? Because who's to say they're not going to put in a Dearness Johnson or something like that? Hunt hasn't been as efficient as he has been in the last couple of years. Let's go Elliott. Otherwise, if Chubb's in, we're not really talking about this. But Zay Jones or Garrett Wilson, okay? This is where we're going to want to go back to run-pass ratio. Let's break this down bare bones. Who's getting used more? We're going to cross-reference our target amounts as well. I can tell you off the bat, Zay Jones probably has more targets. So we are looking at the New York Jets down here. They pass the ball 60% of the time. Jacksonville passes at 58%, so we're pretty much splitting hairs there. Now let's go. We are helping you out-research your opponent on this Wednesday night. So if you're enjoying the thorough looks, the thorough research, all this fact-based information to try and help you out-research your opponent going into Week 16, make sure that you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe. We're grinding out here. So we've got 110 targets for Garrett Wilson. He's actually got Zay beat by 4. Zay's got a way better catch rate, and that's not really Garrett Wilson's fault. He's had Zach Wilson throwing to him for the majority of the year. Zay Jones with 41 targets in his last 4 games. 39 for Wilson. Zay Jones has been a big touchdown target as of late. Yeah, we're really splitting hairs here, but Zay Jones does get a little more usage. It's kind of him and Kirk right now for that number 1 spot, and really, he's been the wide receiver 1 for the last 4 weeks. We said 41 targets over the course of the last 4 weeks. Christian Kirk sitting at 34. Yep. So, you know, the Jets do throw the ball a decent amount. Let's look at strength of opposition. Jets going against the Jags, so those two are facing off against each other. Jets have a much more stout defense. I could definitely see Sauce Gardner lining up against Zay Jones with how hot he's been. I would usually think it's Christian Kirk. I think we're going to trust that he kind of follows both of them around a little bit. Let's go Garrett Wilson, even though I think that Zay Jones has been getting a lot more action and has been performing better lately. Jacksonville is one of the weakest secondaries in the league, so let's go with that. So hope that helps you, TEME. And then Praise says W, appreciate it. Brian says, would you rather start the hot-handed Zay Jones or go with Christian Watson? Christian Watson against the Dolphins. Christian Watson coming off just an 8-point performance. Murphy's Law, I benched him for a couple of weeks, wanted to make sure he was going to be consistent, had 4 straight 20-point performances, and then he put up 8. Christian Watson has a way better matchup against the Miami secondary. We've seen what can be done with them, especially with like a healthy Chargers team. I think that Christian Watson's going to get a decent amount of targets as he has been, and I could see Christian Watson doing extremely well against that pretty holy secondary in the Dolphins. And then Zay Jones, like I said, he could definitely be lining up against Sauce Gardner. So I'm going to go Christian Watson there. And then I'm going to go Garrett Wilson over Zay Jones as well. And then I'm going to go Zeke over Hunt. Let me know other questions you guys have. Oh, we've got Blurpy in here. Perfect. Starters. We've got... Okay, we're going to talk about possibly changing anything. We've got A-Rod at QB, Derrick Henry at running back. Love Derrick Henry at running back always, but especially with Malik Willis back there. Running back 2 is going to be Delvin Cook. Love it. Wide receiver 1, Amonra. Wide receiver 2, D-Hop. Tight end, Mark Andrews. Flex 1, Kamara. Flex 2, ETN. Defense, Titans. Kicker, Carlson. Bench, Jalen Hurts, who's hurt. Mike Evans. Zonovan Knight. Jerry Jeudy. Evan Ingram. Darren Waller. Maybe Evan Ingram. You know, Sauce isn't really going to be lining up against a tight end or anything like that, and Evan Ingram has been getting more usage. Blurpy, if Lamar Jackson plays, we'll stay with Andrews. If Tyler Huntley plays, I do believe we're going to keep seeing... Ignore how I failed to spell stats there. I'm just trying to get to your answers quickly. This has been Mark Andrews under Tyler Huntley the last couple of weeks. I don't love it. There's just not a good connection there. Okay, I don't like getting 6 points, 4 points, 9 points from Mark Andrews. I'm used to 12, 13, 14 consistently, right? What we saw here, 16, 23. So if Lamar is in, we'll go with Andrews. If Huntley is in, I'm changing that tight end spot to Evan Ingram, because Evan Ingram, if you look here, I was just in Jaguars target share. Evan Ingram's got 25 targets in the last 2 games. It's one of the more throw-heavy teams. Like we said before, it's a 58-42 split. The Jags like to fire the ball. And I think with Sauce either guarding Christian Kirk or Zay Jones, there's going to be some extra attention paid to Evan Ingram. What if we don't know after Thursday? If you don't know after Thursday, yeah, that's true. I just love the matchup for Andrews, and Duvernay is out now. Yeah, with Devin Duvernay out, I just don't love with Tyler Huntley in there. Let me see if... Look, the way I'm thinking right now is if Lamar can even slightly go, he's going to go, because the Ravens are not locked into a certain seed or anything like that. They're battling right now for the North. Yeah, Jets game's going to have bad weather. And Huntley's questionable, too. This team's a mess. Didn't practice. You know, and Andrews has been getting his targets. Targets has not really been an issue. It's just been those two connecting. I'm all right with you going with Andrews, to be honest. And again, if you guys have, I've mentioned this before, and I'm glad you're doing this right now, Blurpy. If you guys have any refuting evidence, you know, I am bringing up a lot of things like run-pass ratio. I'm bringing up snap count percentage, target usage, strength of opposition. I focus on the 3 components of availability, opportunity, productivity. If you have anything outside of that or within that I didn't cover and you want to let me know, with this case, it's, you know, the bad weather. Weather is always an influencer, right? Especially when it comes to it being cold, rainy, snowy, all that good stuff, or bad stuff. We definitely want to look at that. The targets have not been an issue. This is what we're used to Andrews getting. You know, 8, 7, 7, 6, 7. Just hasn't been getting a whole lot. I really want Lamar to be in there. If you want to start him with Tyler Huntley in there, that's fine. I just don't think they've had the best connection. But with bad weather, Evan Ingram still going up against the Jets. Picked up A-Rod off waivers. Good stuff with Hurts being hurt. And Rodgers against the Dolphins is a great matchup. So nice job. Duvernay out. I'm okay with Andrews. I can see why you have him in there right now. I think it's going to be a lot better if Lamar is healthy. We'll just put it that way. Let's do what's it called? The Weddle. All right, folks, we're going to do the Weddle. This is what we're going to do. And then if you have any other fantasy questions, let me know. I'm just going to do this as we kind of wait for more to come in. I said I was going to do this once I hit the end of your questions. If you're just popping in, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes. We are helping you out-research your opponent going into Week 16. A-Rod or Goff or Minshew. Goff's an interesting one. He hasn't turned the ball over in a few weeks. Goff against the Panthers. Panthers have a pretty good secondary, actually, so. Just don't trust Goff on the road. Let's see what Goff's done on the road. At New York, I'd say he did okay. It's about 14. Didn't turn the ball over. Yeah, he hasn't turned the ball over in 7 weeks, which is really nice. 165 for absolutely nothing at New York. Not in love with that. Didn't do too well against the Bears. Dallas was horrible. New England was horrible. Minnesota, considering how bad that defense was, or is, it's not the best. All right, I understand the concern with Goff. Okay, Minshew, he's got great tools around him, but he's going up against one of the best defenses in the league in Dallas. I could really see the pressure just getting to him, like quite literally, not figuratively. I'm sure Minshew is calm, cool, and collected. As calm, cool, and collected as somebody who took a hammer to his hand in college to get an extra year of eligibility could be. But I think with Micah Parsons breathing down his neck, DeMarcus Lawrence, you name it, they've got plenty of guys in that defense who could really mess with his productivity. So I don't really trust Minshew in terms of the matchup. So I'm good with A-Rod. Not trusting Goff on the road, judging by the splits I just saw, I understand. TEM, says, man, I benched Zay Jones last week thinking he couldn't repeat. Bro, went for 35 points. That's how it be sometimes, man. Garrett Wilson should be a for sure start if Mike White is playing. But Zach Wilson sucks, man. I also have Juju on the bench. Juju's a pretty interesting one. He does have kind of a tough matchup this week. Yeah, not in love with him against the Seahawks. 20 touchdowns at home, 3 on the road. That's a really good stat, Blurpy. Yeah, we want somebody who's going to be able to score, right? Justin Herbert had over 300 yards yesterday, and he got us a whopping 8-something. 8.6, I think it was. I don't know. Only question is if I start ETN or not. Let's see. You're wondering about ETN? I don't see ETN on the lineup you listed, so if we're choosing between him... Oh, wait, you're on Flex too. Never mind. Evans really hasn't been as involved as Godwin over the course of the last few weeks. Zonovan Knight was really inefficient, and I think that's going to take away from some of his usage. I'm always weird about putting tight ends in for a flex unless you literally have like Mark Andrews, Tyler Higbee, Dallas Goedert, Travis Kelce. So I think I'm okay with ETN there. He had a good bounce back week. Bad weather, then he's, you're running it. Juju on the bench, and you're choosing between him, Garrett Wilson. Again, Garrett Wilson in the bad weather. I would still take him over Zay Jones. Maybe we go Juju. Prey is saying I'm starting Juju. Maybe we go Juju against the Seahawks. It's not the best matchup, but he's still second on a very pass-heavy team in targets. Let's go Juju, actually, TEME. Thank you, Prey. That's a good one, actually, because why would you not take somebody in better weather on a very pass-heavy offense when all the attention's on the tight end? And I hate that argument, like all the attention's on the other guy. If the other guy's getting more targets, doesn't matter. However, Juju Smith-Schuster still gets a pretty healthy dosage of targets. He's going to be in decent weather. I think Zay Jones goes up against a pretty tough matchup in terms of, if Sauce Gardner's on him even for a few snaps, it's really going to shut him down. So, might not know if Sutton is ruled out until after ETN plays. If Sutton is ruled out tomorrow, should I go Judy or should I go Judy instead of ETN? For the flex. Yeah, that's tough. Right, we don't know if we're going to get the ruling on Sutton before or after the Jags-Jets game. I don't think... Look, ETN had a couple... Him and Kenneth Walker III, they both had a couple of pretty alarming performances. But ETN's back on the track. Yeah, like 13 for 54, 17 for 32. I'm starting to think, oh, great. And then he wasn't involved in the pass game at all against Tennessee. And it was a win, so you run the ball a lot in a win. What I saw against Dallas was pretty nice. In terms of Jerry Jeudy, when he's the number one guy, he's getting a decent amount. We're not really seeing Dulcich as involved in the pass game as I thought he was going to be, so that kind of expels that worry. Jerry Jeudy getting 9 targets and then 8 targets. Him and ETN scoring about the same amount of touchdowns because ETN's got... Oh, he doesn't have any receiving, so ETN's got 4 on the year. Judy's got 6. We know the Broncos lose a lot of football games. They're 4-10. They ended up winning last week. Congrats to them. They're playing the Rams. That should be a pretty poor matchup. ETN had a good game, just no touchdowns. I'm still okay with how ETN did. He got a couple catches. When ETN is involved in the passing game, we can get really excited, and he's starting to be involved in the passing game again. I would just go ETN. It's probably going to be Jalen Ramsey on Jerry Jeudy. Yes, Jalen Ramsey's been cooked a lot this year. I don't think Jeudy goes absolutely nuts on him, in my opinion. I'd probably go ETN in what's supposed to be a pretty bad weather game, so you're going to run the ball a lot more. The Broncos might win this against the Rams, and when you're up, you're actually going to use your running back more. And Latavius Murray, the 32-year-old out of the backfield, has been playing out of his mind. So I think from a usage perspective, we're going to go with ETN in that bad weather. Then we don't have to play the game with Jeudy, knowing maybe Sutton's in, maybe Sutton's out. That's what I would do. Let me know if you guys have any more questions here. If you're wondering why I'm wearing the Iowa State hat, I've been told I look like Brock Purdy. I don't think so. I think I'm just another blonde dude, but... Jeudy over D-Hop, I wouldn't go that far. Yes, McSorley's in, but typically when a backup, or in this case, third-string quarterback's throwing the ball, they're going to rely pretty heavily on the wide receiver one. I think D-Hop is a must-start over Jeudy. Yeah, even against the Bucs. I'd probably still go D-Hop. And if you're just stopping in, make sure that you like and subscribe. This is Armchair Athletes. I am Corey, and I'm helping you out-research your opponent going in to Week 16. We did 6 players that you should consider for waiver wire pickups. We've got Brock Purdy, Zach Moss, Mac Hollins, Marquise Goodwin, Chigo Okonkwo, and the Titans defense. We're streaming them against that horrible Houston Texans offense. So make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment any questions that you have at all. And well after this stream, I always encourage all of you to drop your questions in other videos and this video once it's archived. You guys are super good about that, and I'm usually super good about getting back to you in the next couple of hours. Yeah, Trace will force it to D-Hop probably. I mean, when we see a backup quarterback and it's always either run heavy, dump off, or force it to the wide receiver one. Usually a combination of them. Have you played Wordle? Yeah, I've played Wordle, Prey. Very weird weekend, man. My for sure starts at wide receiver are Jamar Chase and Chris Godwin, but flex options are tough. Let's see what we got. I could just start Chubb if he plays and flex Elliott. Bro's been consistent the last 7 weeks, 15 to 17 points. Would you do Purdy over Rodgers? Purdy needs to play first. Purdy against Washington, I would not do. So I mentioned before that Brock Purdy has the easiest remaining schedule for fantasy quarterbacks. There's an exception there, right? His last 2 weeks are easy. It's going to be the Raiders and the Cardinals. He is Brock Purdy. Great. Despite the fact I apparently look like him, he's going up against the Commanders. Pretty solid secondary. Next couple weeks, I'm very okay with it. Raiders and then Cardinals. I'm not doing Purdy over Rodgers. Rodgers is facing a Miami secondary that allows plenty of touchdowns per game. I'm going Rodgers. And then I could just... So you're looking at... This is for TEME. Yeah, I'm starting Chubb if he plays in that weather. And then flex Elliott. Bro has been consistent. Yeah, Elliott. If we look... This is a stat I love to look at, actually. My inability to spell. Oh, that's going to bite me. Yeah, I actually need to spell it right for it to show up. There we go. Zeke has been on fire as of late in terms of red zone touches, and he's actually top 10 in the league now. He is number 9 in red zone touches per game, getting about 3. So Pollard's really not getting the ball past the 20. He's breaking free on big plays. He's going to open the field up. But Zeke is getting those ground and pound runs. He's getting those goal-to-go situation runs. He's a bigger body. He's going to go in there and try and plow somebody over. So you can see here, this is what we love to see. 4 red zone touches, 8 red zone touches. More than anybody else. He was tied with Austin Eckler. That's usually pretty good company to be in when it comes to fantasy running backs. And then 4 in week 15. Yeah, I'm very okay with starting Ezekiel Elliott in the flex spot. Touchdown in each of his last few weeks. Top 10 in the league in red zone touches. This is why Jamal Williams was doing so well before. He's not doing as well anymore because he's not getting as many red zone touches. And he's also just hasn't been too efficient. That's caught up with him. So I'm okay with Zeke in that flex spot. I'm all right with Chubb in that weather. Yeah, I think you're okay. I really do. Mike White's available. You could do Mike White. Again, it's not going to be the best weather, and he's going up against the Jags. But in a pinch, you could go with Mike White against the Jaguars defense that allows plenty through the air. If we look here. So say, should I start you or Rodgers? Thank you, Prey. That's hilarious. True. Yeah, Mike White is also available for next week on waivers. Oh, for next week. Yeah, I'd go ahead and grab him. He's got one of the easier remaining schedules, too. He just needs to be healthy. Right. Yeah. Good Zach's playing against the Jags. Chubb or Ramondre? I just want to see something because Damian Harris has been back. Or he should be back. Oh, he's questionable. Well, Ramondre is questionable as well, so it might be a Pierre Strong day or Kevin Harris. Thigh injury. Well, if Ramondre's out, we know that, so you got to keep an eye there. Limited at practice on Wednesday. If he's even in practice on Wednesday, I'm pretty okay with that. The big appeal with Ramondre Stevenson, right? Not only his efficiency on the ground with 5 yards of carry, his involvement in the receiving game. It's been a little down as of late, but this man has 60 receptions. Okay. Now, we also know that Nick Chubb is extremely efficient and is battling an injury. Bengals have a pretty good run defense. That's what Ramondre is going up against. Saints, let's look at strength of opposition here. Again, if you're just dropping in, make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe. My name is Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, and we are helping you out-research your opponent as we head into Week 16. Let me know where you guys are at in terms of your playoffs. What round? What's your record? What seed are you? Are you in winners, consolation? Just playing for fun at this point? Let me know. Or if you're in a 2-week format like I am, how many points are you ahead or behind heading into Week 2 of this round? Right, so New Orleans, 4.6 yards a carry allowed. It's what Nick Chubb is going up against. Cincy, 4.2. Man, because of Ramondre's involvement in the pass game, I might just lean him. I know that sounds crazy. Nick Chubb's got like 300 more yards than Ramondre, but Ramondre has 40 more receptions, which is 40 more points. And he's also got 21 more points in terms of receiving yards. He's got a receiving touchdown. I mean, Chubb's got the appeal in terms of having those 12 rushing touchdowns in the weather. I'm probably going Ramondre. And the thing with Ramondre is Matt Patricia loves those dump-offs, and that's why Ramondre Stevenson is so involved. He's very screen-heavy, so I'm going to go with that. TMU says, man, Ramondre is literally the Patriots' offense and a pass-catching running back. I'm going Ramondre. It's what we got to do. Let's do it. Let's do some Weddle, guys. Keep asking me your questions. Again, if you're just stopping in, make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe if you're getting value out of this. I apologize if it takes me a little bit to get through the comments, but I want to be as thorough as possible and put as much research-based information in front of all of you as possible so that you have the best chance to win in Week 16. A critical part of our season here. I know a lot of you play for money, so we want to get that working in terms of research. Somebody name a player for me. Actually, I'll start. Let's go Ramondre. All right, so all we have is age. So we know he's not in the AFC at all. We know he's not a running back. This is going to be an offensive player, not on New England. Let's go NFC North wide receiver. We can go Lazard. And we know his number is lower than 38. Okay, it's a different NFC North wide receiver. Number is lower than 13, so it's not Jetta. Is it Chark? I know Chark is younger. Oh! That's not bad. That's not bad. All right, let's go to this. This is any player in the NFL. Okay, so he's going to be on defense, and he's in the AFC. No, he's in the NFC. Let's go Barr. NFC East, not a linebacker. That just means he's definitely on defense. He's probably a corner. We could try Slay. Not a corner. Ooh. Oh boy. So it's probably going to be a safety on Washington. No. Thoughts? I'm going to go on my waiver wire real quick too. Go over some stream plays we can possibly have. Safeties on Washington, if you guys can think of any. I don't know. Forrest is one. I could think of him maybe. Is that gonna... Is he the right number? And then here. We'll try Derek Forrest in a second. Keep dropping those questions in the chat, guys. Any sit questions you have, any possible waiver wire pickups you're deciding between players on your lineup and on the waiver wire, let me know. I know I was mentioning the Titans. They're owned in less than 50% of leagues. Got a really nice matchup. Bengals are there too. Bengals are super underrated, man. They don't really allow a whole lot of points on a consistent basis. They've allowed over 30 on 2 occasions. Doing pretty well. It's not Derek Forrest. I have no clue. Let's see what else we got going here. Jamison Williams could be a possible pickup. He just had the one big reception, so volume is definitely a question with him. Would probably stay away from that. Hunter Renfrow coming off the IR. Just had the one catch before. Russell Gage has been getting more usage. Owning just 22%. That could be one. You know, you don't want to chase points. He did have a pretty tough matchup against Cincinnati, and now he goes up against Arizona and then has Atlanta in a couple weeks if your playoffs do go all the way to Week 18, so this could be an interesting one. Isaiah McKenzie's pretty involved for a wide receiver 3. He's only had 2, I would say, great performances. We would say 12 points is pretty good. Then let's go running backs. Samaje Perine, man. When Joe Mixon was out, he was the move. Breece Hall, that's going to be somebody in mock draft. Someone to be really interested to see where he gets picked. I would assume towards the top of like the 2nd round, 3rd round. He did phenomenal. I would not be shocked if in some deeper leagues, like 14, 16 team leagues, he's in late 1st round territory because of how productive he was. It's pretty slim pickings when it comes to, we'll just go all and see if there's anybody who's owned despite being on not too many rosters. Yeah, James Robinson, I'm not sure I'm a big believer of that, right? James Cook's been very efficient when he gets his touches. You can see here 6.8 yards a carry, 4.6 against New England. But that's just it. It's volume. He's super involved in the pass game, considering it's kind of like a Rachaad White situation. We haven't seen a whole lot of him, but when he does play, he gets the ball passed his way, which is a pretty promising sign. A.J. Dillon's owned in way too many leagues for us to really be able to say, yeah, we can go jump on him. He's been owned in over 40%, but he's been phenomenal. Over 15 points per game in each of the last 3 weeks. Gets to go up against Miami, Minnesota, and then Detroit. That's a hole. That could be a playoff winner for you, honestly. Latavius Murray's been a great recent pickup. Got a nice 21.2. Volume's been there. A season high 25 touches. Johnny D's in the chat. So I checked that fantasy matchup site you use. I'm starting Justin Fields this weekend, but I don't know if I should look at someone else. I know it might be a rookie mistake. Fields has a tough matchup with Buffalo. He does, yeah. Johnny, who else is on your team and who's on waivers at quarterback? I mean, Fields just played the Eagles and look how he did. I mean, all he has to do is break free for one big run for a touchdown. Think about it this way, Johnny. How many times has Fields broke free for a big touchdown on the ground or just a big run? If Fields gets one 50-yard rushing touchdown, that's 11 points right there. He could throw for 175 yards and then he'd do his job. I mean, that's 18. So I'm pretty okay with it. But it depends on who else is available. Like, if we're looking at matchups with guys who are not owned in a whole lot of leagues. Jared Goff on the road has not been pretty. We talked about that already. I'd be pretty hesitant to start Zach Wilson against anybody, especially in the bad weather. I know he had a pretty nice start recently. Honestly, his best of the year. Over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. A fire was lit under him since being benched, maybe. Nick Foles is going against the Chargers. That's a pretty deep move. You know, with Fields' sheer production, I don't know if we need to go another route. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a few guys in the league, and I think Fields is starting to enter that territory where, you know, as quarterback 5, like Patrick Mahomes, like Josh Allen, no matter who they play, we're going to start them because of their production. This is what he does. He didn't even need a touchdown on the ground. He almost had a touchdown on the ground. Justin Fields is going to get you a couple scores one way or another. He's going to rush for at least 50 yards. I think we can guarantee that now. He's done that in each of the last 9 weeks. It's a guaranteed 5-6 points, and it's been way more than that, actually. It's been more than 70 yards in all but 1 week in the last 5. Or no, in every week in the last 5. I think Justin Fields, no matter who he goes up against, look what he did against Dallas, 26 points. New England, 23. I don't think we want to shy away from Justin Fields just because of a tough matchup because he's so phenomenal on the ground and through the air. Dan Jones is a favorable matchup, and he's out there. Daniel Jones is in a run-heavy scheme. He is slightly involved in said run-heavy scheme, so we can look at him. I know that's pretty tempting with him going up against Minnesota, like the worst team in the league right now on defense. Daniel Jones in past matchups against what I would say optimal defenses. Jacksonville, he killed them. Tennessee, I would say 16 is pretty good. Detroit did very well. He has had a lot of very tough matchups. I think Daniel Jones against Minnesota and Justin Fields against the Bills is going to be closer than you may think. You could go with either. We need Jones to have a high throw volume, and actually he has had a decently high throw volume, over 30 passing attempts in 4 of the last 5 games. I wouldn't be mad if you rolled with that. I think Daniel Jones will have he'll have a higher floor, and Justin Fields will have a higher ceiling. He could pop off for a lot more. Daniel Jones is going up against a really weak defense. He's going to have success through the air. Justin Fields could score 20, he could score 35, and they could still lose. Notice how Justin Fields has done phenomenal last couple of months. The Bears haven't won a single game. He's just a great fantasy quarterback right now, and that's all we need him to be. So I'd be okay with either, Johnny. I hate saying that I'm indifferent between 2 options, but I would say it depends on your play style. If you're a more conservative player and you want somebody you know is going to put up a decent amount of points, do Daniel Jones against the Vikings. If you want to take a little chance and say, hey, maybe he'll only get me 15, maybe he'll get me 35, let's go Justin Fields. He has the higher ceiling, but the Bills could definitely mitigate his performance. All right, I think I'm going to wrap it up there, folks. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes. This is not my last live stream of the week. I'll make sure to stream before everything. If it's your last time watching one of my streams for the next few days, Merry Christmas. Again, thank you all so much for not even just the 50,000 views, but the increase in subscribers as of late. It's great to see the following grow. It inspires me to continue to come up with more content, and we will have plenty of those. We've got mock drafts. We've got specialized team videos. We've got tier rankings with players and teams. We have a 0 to Hero series where I'm going to pick a bunch of backups in the draft for next year, and I'm basically going to try and win as much as I can in that league based off waivers and trades. I'm picking all backups in the draft. I've got a list that you guys compiled for me. We've got Trace McSorley. We've got Antonio Brown. We have a few others. So really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to the next live stream. If you have any questions at all, drop them in this video, drop them in other videos, and I'll get to them as soon as I possibly can. Otherwise, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes signing off. Until next live stream.